Okay, so this is a video explaining exactly in greater detail what are done yogas. So, done yogas in someone's chart are planetary combinations that can provide an individual with wealth, that provides them with financial opportunities and financial gains. And who doesn't want to be able to look at someone's chart or look at your own chart and see your ability or ease or luck astrologically when it comes to obtaining finances and seeing when in your life with those periods come and happen. So for a beginner of someone who is into Vedic astrology, understanding and learning and seeing how to view done yogas can be confusing or complicated, as it was for me. It hurt my damn brain at first, but now I understand it. So done yogas can unfold in someone's chart in a multitude of ways. So I don't even know how to make it simplified, and I'm usually someone who's good at explaining myself, but these are the houses that are very important when it comes to finding wealth-giving combinations, aka done yogas, in someone's chart. The first, second, fifth, ninth, and 11th house are the important wealth-giving houses in the important wealth-giving planetary lords when it comes to done yogas. So any combinations between the lords of those houses can provide you with a done yoga. Now, like I said, it's too many combinations in between all those houses that I just said for me to just go and list them all. But just remember that combinations between the first, second, fifth, ninth, and 11th lord falling into each other's houses, being in mutual aspect, being in conjunction, or being in parivartan yoga, which will be another damn video I have to make a video on about yogas. When they fall in like those type of situations, you have a done yoga. So I'm gonna just throw a couple examples of, done yoga, so I can paint an image in your mind for those who just might not know. So the second house is the house that is associated with your personal wealth, your finances, your savings, the family that you come from, and therefore that is why that is a house that is associated with wealth. Why the ascendant? Well, the ascendant represents you, your life, your why the ascendant and the ascendant lord? Well, the ascendant represents you, your life, your vitality, your body, and in general, it is just seen that planets that are placed within the ascendant are of great importance, and that planets and yogas that are formed in the ascendant are supposed to give great strong effects, more pronounced effects. The fifth house is associated with, we think of it just as dating and children and education, but it's also associated with gambling, because the fifth house can be hobbies, and gambling is a hobby. So the fifth house is a house that is seen that can be associated with wealth to some extent. The ninth house is a house that we know for the teachings of the father, belief systems and teachers and religious stuff and politics, but is also a house that's associated with fortune, feeling blessed. So therefore, the ninth house is a house that is seen to be associated with wealth. And then the 11th house is a house of large social network circles, organizations, and gains. It's also a house that is known to be associated with being able to fulfill your hopes and dreams and wishes. The 11th house is associated with large amounts of income, large amounts of gains, large amounts of finances. So any combinations between those houses and their planetary lords, like I said, can produce a done yoga, a wealth-giving yoga. So like, for example, and I can give infinite examples. Anyone can give infinite examples. And this is what makes understanding a done yoga to someone who's a beginner so difficult. Because you probably just want one blueprint, one system that you can look at every time to see if someone has done yogas. But no, done yogas can appear in multiple ways. And it comes down to your own discernment as a person who's interested in astrology to be able to properly discern whether this done yoga will give great results or mediocre results or no results. So this is where it gets confusing and stuff for other people. But let's say that you have the 11th Lord, and let's say your 11th Lord is Jupiter. And let's say your 11th Lord Jupiter went to the second house. And your second Lord, in this crazy, unrealistic example, is Moon. Your second Lord Moon went into the 9th house. That's a done yoga. They both don't gotta switch signs, but, you know, 11th Lord going to the second house is a done yoga. Second Lord going into the 5th is a done yoga. 9th going into 11th is a done yoga. Any of those little combinations of the lords that rules those wealth-giving houses and the Ascendant Lord falling into either one of those houses is a done yoga. Now, what can make a done yoga more pronounced? Make it more beneficial. Like, ooh, during this time period, I see that you're going to get a lot of money or great financial gains, or I'm going to be good when this time period comes. What would make someone's chart, what would make that done yoga stand out? Well, like I said, there's multiple ways that this can unfold, you know. There isn't just no one strict answer when it comes to explaining any type of yoga, because the yogas, for the most part, their quality can unfold in many different ways, but especially done yoga, because there's so many different ways that it can unfold. I just got to keep repeating that, so that way you don't take what I'm saying and you just run with it. You know, you gotta have some discernment when it comes to seeing the effects of a yoga. But let's say that if you want to see to examine how great the done yoga will be, first you want to see if there's any malefics involved. You want to see if the planets that's involved in the done yoga is hemmed by malefics. What do I mean by hemmed by malefics? Let's say that you have Jupiter and Venus in conjunction and the Ascendant. And Venus and Jupiter they both are the ruler of like the 5th and the 11th, or the 5th and the 9th, or the 5th and the 2nd. Therefore, this is a powerful done yoga. Because for one, the lords are both in conjunction, and the lords are sitting in the Ascendant, making them even more pronounced in the native's life. So, like I said, how can you see, what do I mean by a planet that's hemmed? Well, if I just told you in this example that Venus and Jupiter are in conjunction in the 1st house, what I mean by hemmed is if there's malefics in the houses next to it. Meaning, if there's malefics in the 2nd and malefics in the 12th house of this combination, then that means that planetary combination, that done yoga, is hemmed by malefics. You know, it sort of damages the effects of that planetary yoga. It's almost like, you gotta think of it realistically. Let's say you lived in a neighborhood, and you lived in a terrible neighborhood. Drug dealers and gangbangers live next door to you. They're your neighbors. They live in a house to your left. They live in a house to your right. And you're too scared to go to school or leave your house to go to work because you feel as though you might get picked with, that you might get robbed. So because you are so scared of your neighbors, you are so scared of your neighborhood, you cannot go out and provide food for your family. You cannot go out and educate yourself. Therefore, you got all this great potential within you to go and live a great, fruitful life. But because you are scared of your surroundings, or you're being harmed by your surroundings, you never go out and do anything. That is what happens when you have planets that are hemmed in your chart in general. You have great planetary combinations that can provide a multitude of different things. But if you have like Rahu and Saturn in one house, and then you have Mars and Saturn, or Mars and Rahu or whatever, this wouldn't be realistic. Like I said, let me think of better. Let's say you had K2 and Mars in one house, and you had Saturn and you had Saturn in the other house, and then you just had Mercury and Jupiter in this house in the middle of it. Well, Jupiter and Mercury, they could be a great combination depending on what house and sign they're in, but it will be damaged, and its beautiful effects will be reduced because it is hemmed. It's sitting next to two negative neighbors. So you can have a great Dun Yoga, a great wealth-giving yoga in your chart, but its effects can be reduced if its neighbors are malefic. And then let's say that you have a great Dun Yoga combination. You have a Dun Yoga forming within the negative houses, 6th, 8th, and 12th. Well, like I said, don't take my words for law, because there's so many different examples that these things can unfold. But let's say that you have a beautiful Dun Yoga that is formed within the 6th house. It could show that you might gain money through court cases, or fighting battles, or from you have to probably spend money to make money. You might be involved in like some debt, or you might be involved in some court case, because the 6th house is associated with diseases and debts and illnesses. So through tragedy or from illnesses, you might gain money. Like let's say that you're working at your job and you might get some asbestos or whatever, and then you can make money suing the job or whatever from asbestos or from some malpractice or whatever. So boom, you just gained wealth from suing due to some malpractice or due to a unhealthy work environment. That's like the type of things that can happen. The 6th house represents the everyday struggles. So it shows that you would struggle and have difficulties obtaining that money, and you have to go for the 6th house things. But you can also gain that wealth that you're looking for. And let's say you have a Dun Yoga forming within the 8th house. If it's forming within the 8th house, what is the 8th house? The 8th house is surgeries, death, transitions, endings, sudden events, because death can be sudden and inheritance can be sudden. But like I said, depending on the sign and the aspect and all that stuff, I'm just being real broad in general. If you have a Dun Yoga forming within the 8th house, it's possible that through maybe the loss of a job, you gain more money. Or from the loss of a loved one, of a family member, or whatever, you gain financial opportunities. Or it won't be until you get into a car accident, or until you go through some surgery, or until you brutally harm yourself that you end up making wealth, Or like you said, someone tries to hurt you, and then you end up getting money from it. Or you get into a fight, you sue someone or whatever. Whatever type of unfortunate 8th house events, you can probably make money from that. Let's say if you've done yoga forming in the 12th house. The 12th house is isolation, foreign lands, unusual lands, subconscious, dreams, sleep, all that stuff. Well, you might make money in a whole nother state, or in a whole nother country, or working behind the scenes. Or it won't be until maybe you're like in a hospital or imprisoned or whatever, or whatever. You're isolated somewhere that you end up making and generating wealth. So you gotta think like that. You gotta see what house is the Dun Yoga being formed in, and that is how you'll gain your money. Now, good Dun Yogas, great Dun Yogas, are ones that are sort of like in connection with the 10th house or 10th lord, because that shows, and don't quote me on this, if my memory is correct, that would be like a Raj Yoga. But anyway, like let's say you have a Dun Yoga of like 2nd lord goes into the 10th house, and the 5th lord goes into the 10th house. So 2nd and 5th lord are in conjunction within the 10th house, or the Ascendant lord goes into the 10th, conjunct the 9th, 11th, 2nd, or 5th, but it's in the 10th house and they're in conjunction. That shows that you will gain wealth through your career, which is fucking great. It shows that whatever you choose to direct your energy towards career-wise, you will get great wealth, or you'll get some wealth. I can't tell you great. It depends on the sign, if it's exalted, how it looks in the Navamsha, how it looks in the Dasamsha. All those details will tell you how great of the wealth would you get. So, I hope I made this simple enough. You definitely need a decent amount of background knowledge on astrology to probably follow the little examples and parallels I just gave you when it came to knowing essentially what are dun yogas. But dun yogas are combinations of the planets of the lords. Dun yogas are combinations of the lords of the 1st, 2nd, 5th, 9th, and 11th. And depending on aspects, depending on how, if they're hemmed, depending on what houses, whatever houses those planets might rule, will decide the level of success. But you can have all these dun yogas that provide you wealth, and it could never happen if you never run the Mahadasha of it. If you're not running a planetary time period of it, then it will never get activated. Like, you could just have a millionaire written right in your chart, but you never run the time period of it, or the time period is never long enough. Like, it is supposedly stated that, or seen, at least from Mark Boney's books, that ways to see someone having the capability to generate massive financial wealth and gain is combinations of the 5th and 11th axis. Because the 5th house is like associated with gambling or whatever, or speculative gains, stock market and stuff. And the 11th house is associated with large social network circles, organizations, and just large amounts of wealth and gains. So let's say that you have Mercury in Virgo in the 11th house, which means Mercury is exalted. And let's say that you have Jupiter in the 5th house in Pisces. Therefore, Jupiter is sitting in his own sign, feeling very strong. 5th and 11th lord are aspecting each other. The 11th lord is exalted. Jupiter feels strong because it's sitting in his own house. Jupiter's sitting in his own sign. When you run, and like I said, this is very general because you gotta see the whole chart. When you would run the planetary time period of Mercury and or Jupiter, that would be a great period for someone to maybe come across some great wealth. Because it has been seen, at least according to the Mark Boney books that I have read, that by, he examined a chart of some people who have won a lottery, and they both had a great dun yoga forming within the 5-11 axis in their chart. So, various dun yoga combinations formed between the 5th and 11th axis can provide you and generate great wealth. So let's say that you don't really have no dun yogas in your chart at all. What does that mean? It doesn't mean you'll be poor forever. No, because there's other combinations that can be formed in your chart. There's other yogas that can be created within your birth chart that can provide you with fame and success. Dun yogas is just one of the easiest, simple ones to see. But there's other combinations in your chart that can provide you with wealth and fame and all that good stuff. But if you don't have no dun yogas, or you're not really running the time periods of your dun yogas at all, like I said, that doesn't mean that you can't achieve nothing, It just shows that you'll have to work hard to get your money. You'll have to work hard for your success, and that nothing will be given to you, Like, some people just have stupid luck. They gamble, they always winning, they make investments, they always are doing good when they invest in the stock market. That's probably because they got great dun yogas in their chart. That's probably because they probably have great wealth-giving planetary combinations in their chart. And you try to do the same thing as them, and you struggle because you probably don't have that karma. You probably don't have that boon, that blessing within your chart to be born in this lifetime and just be naturally gifted at maybe shooting dice, going to the casino, or investing in stocks. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it if you really want to do it. It just shows that it won't come as naturally easy for you. You have to work real hard. You have to work harder than the person who might just naturally have that gift and talent that got like a shoehorn up their ass when it comes to making money. But without making this too long-winded and complicated, as I can always do, I hope that this shine a little bit light on what the hell are done yogas. But like I said, it can be complicated if you don't, you know, have no background knowledge on astrology and you're just jumping right into this. You need to be able to see charts and point out with confidence what is a done yoga. And then you need to be able to see how to tell if this will be a great done yoga that will provide good results, great results, or minimal results. And then be able to see through Mahadashas, through Dashas, when or if this will even be activated. And when it comes to making predictions in general, it is preferred that you use more than one. It's preferred that you use more than one dasha. It's preferred that you use more than one dasha system to see if an event can unfold. Like, you want to preferably use Rimshotri, Yogini, or Char Dasha. Those are the main ones. But there's other ones. But I'm going to wrap this video up. Thank you for watching, and see you next time when I decide to make another video on something random and obscure.